For decades, the standard financial advice has been absolute. Buy real estate. It is the path to passive income. However, the data suggests that passive is a misnomer. When you hold physical real estate, you are not just holding an asset. You are holding a liability that requires constant capital injection and legal defense. Consider the reality of the post-2020 regulatory environment. You hold the deed, but who holds the power? If a tenant stops paying and the government declares a moratorium, you are no longer an investor. You are a pro bono housing provider. Today, we analyze the structural risks of the landlord nightmare versus the sovereign simplicity of gold. Introduction. On this market report, we are conducting a comparative risk analysis between two primary store of value assets: residential real estate and physical gold. The narrative surrounding real estate often ignores the metric of net hassle and legislative risk. While real estate offers leverage and potential cash flow, it introduces counterparty risks that simply do not exist in precious metals. We are witnessing a divergence in asset classes. One requires you to manage tenants, navigate shifting zoning laws, and absorb inflationary maintenance costs. The other requires nothing more than secure storage. The passive income. Myth and regulatory capture. Let us begin with the most significant variable in real estate, the human element. Real estate is frequently marketed as passive income. This is technically incorrect. It is a business operation. When you purchase a rental property, you are entering a legal contract where the counterparty, the tenant, has significant leverage, often backed by state and federal legislation. We must look at the precedent set during the health crisis of 2020 and 2021. The CDC issued eviction moratoriums that effectively nullified property rights for millions of landlords. While that specific moratorium has ended, the legal precedent remains. State-level protections in jurisdictions like California, New York, and increasingly other municipalities have made the eviction process a matter of years, not months. Analyze the numbers. If a tenant ceases payment, your expenses, mortgage, property tax, insurance, do not cease. In a landlord nightmare scenario, you face a 12 to 18-month period of zero revenue, coupled with 5-figure legal fees to reclaim possession of your own asset. Furthermore, squatters' rights in various jurisdictions allow individuals to occupy a property without a lease, forcing owners into lengthy civil litigation while the asset actively depreciates due to lack of maintenance. In this context, the property is not an asset, it is a liability. You have exposure to the legal system, the behavior of the tenant, and the whims of local housing authorities. Contrast this with gold. Gold has no counterparty. It has no tenant. It does not require a lease agreement, and it cannot be occupied by a squatter if properly secured. It does not rely on the judicial system to maintain its value or your ownership. When you hold physical gold, the relationship is singular: you and the asset. There is no regulatory body that can legislate that your gold must be used by someone else for free. Moving to the second vector, the cost of carry. Inflation is generally viewed as a positive for real estate prices, but it is a negative for real estate maintenance. The cost of materials, lumber, copper, concrete, and skilled labor, has outpaced general CPI. When a water heater fails or a roof requires replacement, the capital expenditure required today is significantly higher than it was 5 years ago. This compression of margins reduces the net yield of the property. However, a more immediate threat to real estate wealth preservation is the insurance sector. We are observing a structural shift in the insurance market. Major carriers are exiting states like California and Florida, or raising premiums by 30 to 50% year over year. In some cases, premiums have tripled. This is a non-negotiable carrying cost. If you have a mortgage, you are required to hold insurance. As these premiums rise, they eat directly into cash flow. If the property is not generating cash flow, these costs eat into your personal savings. Real estate is a hungry asset. It must be fed capital to remain viable. Compare this to the holding costs of gold. Gold does not rust, tarnish, or decay. A gold bar minted in 1924 requires the exact same amount of maintenance today as it did 100 years ago. 0. While there are costs associated with secure storage, such as a safe deposit box or a private vaulting service, these are fixed, predictable, and generally a fraction of a percent of the asset's value. Gold does not suffer from roof leaks. It does not require insurance against wind damage to retain its physical integrity. It is an immutable store of energy that does not bleed capital while you hold it. The market freeze and liquidity risk. The third vector is liquidity. This brings us to the market freeze angle. Real estate is inherently illiquid. It cannot be sold in a day or even a week without taking a substantial loss. But in the current macroeconomic environment, this illiquidity has intensified. As interest rates remain elevated relative to the past decade, we see a lock-in effect. Sellers do not want to lose their low-rate mortgages, and buyers cannot afford the new high-rate mortgages. Transaction volume plummets. This is the market freeze. If you need to access the capital stored in your real estate during a market freeze, you have two bad options. 1. You lower the price drastically to find a cash buyer, effectively destroying equity. Or 2. You wait. In a recessionary environment, days on market can stretch to 6 months or more. During a liquidity crisis, wealth that cannot be accessed is theoretical wealth. Gold, conversely, is one of the most liquid assets on the planet. It trades 24 hours a day across global markets. Whether in London, Shanghai, or New York, the spot price is recognized instantly. If you hold gold coins or bars and require liquidity, they can be liquidated for fiat currency immediately at any coin shop, bullion dealer, or refinery worldwide. The simplicity of sovereign ownership. Ultimately, this comparison comes down to the definition of ownership. With real estate, you are a manager. You manage the physical structure, you manage the tenant, you manage the tax liability, and you manage the regulatory risk. It is a complex web of obligations. With gold, you are an owner. It is wealth detached from the performance of others. It is wealth detached from the electrical grid and the banking system. It is the only financial asset that is not simultaneously someone else's liability. The data indicates that while real estate has a place in a diversified portfolio, it should not be viewed as a risk-free passive investment. The landlord nightmare is a statistical reality that creates significant drag on wealth preservation. For those seeking simplicity, liquidity, and total control over their assets, gold remains the superior hedge. We will continue to monitor these asset class disparities in future reports. For more data-driven market reports and financial analysis, subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned for the next update.